traditions are texts that we are respecting, that we think that this is coming from God. So we also have sometimes very simple things. Even sometimes I am in interviews and talking to people, I forget just to remind the people of very simple things. So they want us to be rational, reasonable, with no references. And you just have to say, yes, I'm trying to be rational, I am reasonable, but don't forget, I believe that these texts are coming from God. So let us start with this because it's an important point. Having said that, let me start with an assessment. And especially in the upstream from everything which has to do with women, and I will come to some of the points that we have to address. For years, I have been involved with fiqh, Islamic law and jurisprudence, trying to say, yes, Islam is not against women, but Muslims have clearly a problem in the way they are dealing with this issue. And I'm thinking that what we have to do is to come to the Islamic law and jurisprudence and to adapt and to think of new legal opinions. And I think that still we have to do that. But at the end, you understand that if you come to the tradition, this long history, you understand that in the way we try to find solutions, there is already a problem. Why? Because the Muslim scholars, the first Muslim scholars, they were producing fiqh, Islamic law and jurisprudence. And mainly they were, after the first generation of the Muslims in the companion, even during the Salafi period, they were mainly men doing that, the great majority of them. When you are a man and you think about what is right and what is wrong, the limits of behavior, and you are a man, the fiqh, by definition, is speaking about what? Limits and functions. By definition. So if you come back to this, you will reduce the discussion about women on something which is roles, functions, and limits. By definition. And as you are not a woman, if you are a man, thinking about the limits, you cannot put yourself in the status of woman. You think about the duties and the rights. And this is why, by definition, the fiqh is directing our attentions towards something which is al-halal wal-haram, the lawful and the unlawful, and the rights and the duties. And from where you are, and then you think about the roles and the functions of women in a society, and then you add to this al-halal wal-haram, what is right and what is wrong. So it's all about rules and limits, and then functions, what you have to do and what you cannot do. But there is something which is missing here. By definition, you speak about interpersonal relationships. But what about the human being per se? The only one who can speak about this, saying the text is not coming first to tell me how I have to act with you, how I have to be with him, which is God, who is God, in which way I have to be with God. This is the central point. Then comes the relationship with others. If you reverse the picture, you speak about you are putting rules and limits and functions. So here you are directed towards a dimension which is interpersonal relationships, and the way you read the texts is going to be influenced by that. So the whole direction is in which way we are going to organize, set the rules of our social relationships within the family first. So the definition is you are first a wife or a daughter and a mother. But it's coming from where? It's not coming from people very insincere scholars. It's normal. They were just doing their job. They were men. They are trying to find the rules, and they are thinking about, okay, the rules, they were very sincere, but having a projection on the reality which was normal from where they were. And we have to think about this. We cannot reduce the Islamic message to rules, norms, halal and haram. Because at the beginning, it's not about what you cannot do, but what you should be. This is Islam. Islam is who are you before what I can do and I cannot do. Who are you is the first question. Who are you? Are you a believer? Are you faithful? Are you trying to achieve what the Creator is expecting from you? And this is a very important point. So when it comes to this, you understand that we have a problem upstream from the third dimension. Second point, which is also important here, is that from here, instead of just thinking as Muslims living in the West or in our contemporary, because by the way, it's not a Western issue. It's an international, global issue. We're speaking about Muslim women in Muslim majority countries as well as in the West. And not only as Muslim women or Muslim men and women having problems with the issue and looking at the West having solved the problem. Never start this discussion like this, because some of our fellow citizens and intellectuals are looking at Muslims and say it's as if they don't have a problem. They speak about violence, for example, or domestic violence, it's as if it's a Muslim issue. And the figures are clear. It's not a Muslim issue. You have much more violence with, the traditional families and white families than in other societies. It's just the problem is that the problems are connected. We all are dealing with the issues that are related to discriminations, violence, and difference of treatments or social treatments. So upstream from this discussion, we have to come to the vision, what we want to achieve when it comes to this. And this is why I was speaking first about the status and the liberation process and empowerment. And here, we should start to achieve the three fields. We should start with a discussion on the essence. Human being and women as human being, the essence of womanhood. It's crucial, because you will understand that this will have an impact on everything you are going to say on rules. The second is, with the being, is what we want to achieve, as I said, is the ethics, the applied ethics when it comes to women. And this is why my point at that level in the discussion within the Islamic communities in the West or in the Muslim majority countries is really to challenge both the ulama, the Muslim scholars, and the communities, saying we have a problem now, a disconnect between what the scholars are saying and what the Muslims are doing or understanding. First, what we need today in the platforms or the councils where we have Muslim scholars, if we want to solve the problem of equality, justice, and freedom, and right Islamic treatment towards women, we need to have much more women Muslim scholars. We need women being scholars, knowing the scriptures, knowing and reading the source. Why? Because you can say that once I heard a scholar saying 80% of what is in the Quran and the prophetic tradition, it makes no difference if you are a woman or a man. That's true, but 20% is a lot. There's huge differences. When you read the scriptural sources, it's not the same when you are a woman and when you are a man. You don't read them the same way. So we need Muslim scholars and women being involved in that at the highest level. And we need them to be in the councils of Muslim scholars when it comes to deal with the issue. But we don't only need women as Muslim scholars or Muslim women scholars, we also need in these councils people working within the field in the society. What I call ulama al-waqa, scholars knowing the environment. Why? Because we should know how it works. It's not only an abstract discussion on text, it has to do with reality. Because discrimination, the way the people are living in a specific setting, in a specific culture, you should understand how it works to be able to say the liberating process is both a deep knowledge of the text and a very deep knowledge, understanding of how it works, the structures, the social fabric. If you don't know this, how are you going to implement the text? And why the first Muslim scholars, for example, they were very, very confident. Why? Why they were able to say things that we are not able because they only had more knowledge than us of the text? No. They also had the knowledge of the society. Malik, the first one who was living in Medina and Mecca, he was very comfortable with anything which was coming from the text because this was his society. He knew the society, so he was confident and he was able to do this. This was at his time, it was easier than now. Now we are dealing with very complex societies. So we need people coming from the society, coming from how it works, the subtle discriminative processes that we have in the society, to be able to address this in the light of the text, and for the people of the text to understand how it works. So we need platforms and councils where you, as what we call ordinary Muslims, could come with your knowledge of what is in your society to be able to share this with the Muslim scholars. Because at the end of the day, the Muslim scholars are going to change their mind if you change your sense of responsibility. We have a community of passive people complaining about the fact that the scholars are not doing their job, but the community is not doing its job. Not just complaining, we are not involved. You have to take your share of responsibility in the process. You are responsible, and at the end, you will have the scholars you deserve. Simple questions or simplistic questions will have simple answers or simplistic answers. But it's up to you. You have deep questions about how we go towards this liberating process. You will get the scholars to have to think about this. Simple things, but deep things. So it's a vision that we need, and we need ulama al-nusus wa ulama al-waqa, scholars of the text with scholars of the environment. And among the scholars of the text, we need women to be involved in this. So we need women on both. And then it's not women against men. It's men and women in the name of faithfulness, which is completely different. Sometimes when I speak like this, women are very happy, clapping, yes, say it. And the men say, who is he? A modern Muslim, a Swiss Muslim. No, I'm a Muslim. I'm here to be faithful in the name of my religion. And I think that we are not. We are betraying, and especially in that field. And we are treating women in a way which is not right. And women are accepting to be treated sometimes like this in a way which is not right. The deepest sense of alienation that you can have in our communities when women are repeating the same discriminative process and thinking that this is Islamic. You're completely alienated if you think so. So the point here is to come with a deep sense of responsibility and say, we are the driving force of this radical reform which is needed. Having said that, let me now just speak about this essence, being, and ethics. Ethics, the values, what we want to achieve, the objectives, what was coming from the scholars, which is al-maqasid. When you read the Quran and when you read the prophetic tradition, there is something which is quite clear, and this came from, in fact, a series of scholars. From the very beginning, in fact, there was even Abu Hanifa. Abu Hanifa, when he said, the money that you have to give, the zakat, you don't have to give, things, you can give money instead of giving, food and things like this. He was thinking of what? He was thinking something which is analogy. How could you think through analogy and say, okay, don't give food but give money? Because you think of what? You think of the achievement. You think of the objective. The objective is give. Give something that you possess. So through the objective, you change the means. Understanding that at the end, the means are here to achieve the objectives. You get it? This is a very important point. And you can do this by having three things. First, you understand the objectives. Second, you understand the texts. You understand how you extract from the text the objectives. And then you are confident with the means. You know the text, you get the objectives,